Hey there, we're here to do another impromptu-ish video. Got some good reactions from you guys doing our last video kind of segment talking about each of the divisions and all that fun stuff, and so we wanted to kind of do something in between. I know that we kind of said that the last time we talked, the next thing that we would do would be kind of reacting to preseason rankings and all that fun stuff, but we lied completely to you, and instead we're going to be here to do some contract evaluations. Code and I were kind of talking and trying to figure out a show. I think I'm a little bit notorious and outspoken sometimes, talking about what I think the better and worst contracts are in the league. And Code has been very passionate about holdouts and all that stuff. And so we decided to kind of turn it into a big overview as like a contract thing overall. And so here we are. We're going to kick it off with you first, Code. You were kind of, well, why don't I let you explain, kind of what you were doing and the work that you put in here.
Yeah, so obviously, salary cap league, it's very important to maintain your cap, as we all know. And just, we had that rule change go into effect the offseason, where like the contract holdouts were determined by like the highest paid by position.
Right.
So that just gave me the idea to come up with, it's not even like I did any actual hard work. I just looked at the spreadsheet, looked at the highest paid contracts per position, and just talk about the players, because like some of these players are paid a lot, hypothetically, but then some players are just super freaking cheap. We have some of these rookies that last year just came into the league and were immediate fantasy producers. That doesn't always happen, but they're on like super cheap deals, and eventually they're going to end up holding out if people still have these grandfather contracts. But we're kind of at that point where like most of them have been like grandfathered out. So it's very interesting because like I feel like it's like a pendulum, because we have a lot of teams that are going to have a lot of cap room coming up soon, and depending on who gets locked up in the off season, the free agent pool might not be that great. So are people going to just shell out for an RB2, or are they just going to wait and kind of do what Rick did, and then by the time it's 2028, are we basically just redrafting everyone? You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, because everyone's budgets is going to be, I guess, a little more flexible or manageable. I mean, unless you're Cam. But I guess we'll see what Cam does with his kick the can down the road strategy.
Yeah.
But that's just kind of where my head got with this, because I was thinking about holdouts, and every year there's always a couple, but this year there might be several.
A lot. Yeah, I think there will be a lot as well, and we'll talk about that here in a second or two. I really like your point on a lot of these bigger contracts have been grandfathered out, and you can kind of feel that a lot of teams kind of built their team to have a reset when it gets to a certain point in time, and that's coming due for a lot of teams here. I think a lot of those big hitting contracts that would have slammed home this year or next year got restructured. Jefferson and CMC and Burrow. I mean, CMC and Burrow are still expensive, but the Mike Evans deal, the Josh Allen's deal, like a lot of them got tweaked or cut, and so this is gonna create another level of confusion almost, I think. And I think you extrapolate like how effective the comp picks are at the end of round 2, beginning of round 3, and I wonder if that early, my initial expectation when I put all this together, without spoiling too much, is that third round picks should lose quite a bit of value just based off of how many holdouts I think could happen. I told Code right when we started recording this, we'd let it happen naturally, but I feel like we've perseverated on holdouts quite a bit, so we'll pull it up early. For those of you that need a refresher on the holdout process, there are different tiers of holdouts. For quarterbacks, it's the top 6 players are holdouts or holdout eligible. For running backs and wide receivers, it's the top 12. For tight ends, it's the top 4. Anybody paid under $150 next year for their contract that is a top 6 quarterback will hold out and not play unless they sign a new deal. If they're a star, which is the bottom 3 of the top 6, so 4, 5, and 6, they would demand their first year be 150. If they were a superstar, meaning they were number 1, 2, or 3, they would demand $249 a year. Where does that number come from? That's the average of the top 6 paid quarterbacks in the league, which is nuts. Running backs, very similar story. And if they were paid under $69 next year, the bottom 6, so 7 through 12, would hold out, saying they want their first year to be $69 of their contract to be based off that number. Superstars would want 115. Wide receivers, the top 6 would want the 110. 7 through 12 of wide receivers at 66, but anybody under 66 would hold out. And tight ends, it's a little bit cheaper and a little bit more manageable down here. The top 4, if anybody's paid under $29, they'd hold out. The top 2 would want $49 as their Y1OR. The stars would want $29 as their Y1OR.
Yeah.
Scary stuff if you're quarterback, or especially your quarterback. I feel like if you have a breakout wide receiver, someone that, what's a good example of a wide receiver that we've all been hoping for that we could do it? Like if we have, DK Metcalf ends as a top 6,
yeah.
Garrett Wilson ends as a top 6, something like that. It's like, okay, I don't mind paying that guy 110 for 2 years or something.
Yeah.
But if you have a player like Jawan Jennings kind of sneak in there at the end, or you have one of these okay running backs, or a running back heading into that did fine, like if Brian Robinson sneaks in a spot 12 there, you really want to lock this guy into a longer deal starting at 69. It's interesting. And that quarterback superstar price is just, I don't know. That is a very short list of players, I think, that you can pay $249 to for a 1-year deal, let alone signing somebody out of contract at that cost. Franchise tag does come into effect. So you do have that. No, you cannot. I think we changed it. You can't franchise tag holdouts, right? I don't remember. Something I'll look at.
It's got to be in the bylaws somewhere. I don't remember either. It's late.
It's in the bylaws somewhere, yeah. I will do some digging on that while you get going and talking about our thing. So you kind of did, it's page by page, but we're going to talk about our top paid quarterbacks first. And then we'll talk about cheap, noteworthy players. Dog, is that Kerchak?
Yeah,
Hi, Kerchak.
Down here.
So we'll talk about some players that are the top 5 paid at each position. And then we'll talk about players that you identified as cheap quarterbacks that are noteworthy. Not necessarily risks for holdout or anything, but just, hey, this guy's on a cheap deal, and I think it's worth talking about. So let's go ahead and put that on your screen, starting with our top paid quarterbacks. Go ahead and take it away.
Yeah, so this is obviously just straight from the spreadsheet. It's not like I picked the ones I thought were paid the most. It's literally, these are the top paid 5. And you look at the names, is there any wonder why? Right. Joe Burrow, Mahomes, Hurts, Allen, Lamar Jackson. What was the weakest fantasy finish out of this bunch? I think it's like Mahomes, right?
Yeah, probably Mahomes. He's been a QB1 the last couple of years.
What was Mahomes, like QB9 last year?
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, but that's still a QB1, but yeah, not holding out or anything. But these guys are making bank, and obviously, like, their name cachet grants them that. But for fantasy, guys like Bo Nix on a rookie deal, Jaden Daniels on a rookie deal, are making like literally not even a quarter of this. Like, they're making like a 1/16 or whatever, 1/8. I don't even know. But again, they can't hold out just yet because they're still on the rookie deals. So eventually, once they get to, was it year 3, they hold out, which is why if you go to the next slide on the noticeably cheap players, I think CJ Stroud is like number 1 on the list.
Yep.
Because
scroll down a tiny bit and put that on the screen for you. Make sure I don't screw it up. And I have an answer to the holdout question. Get there. Here's our cheap, noteworthy quarterbacks.
Yeah, so like CJ Stroud's on this list, Jordan Love's on this list, Jared Goff's on this list. Like, these are guys that, I don't know if we'd be like shocked if they finished top 6, but it's like if any one of the top highest paid QBs goes down to injury or something, they're not going to finish in that top 6. So it's like, who is going to be a top 6 QB? Could Jordan Love do it? Maybe. Could Jared Goff do it? Honestly, I think Goff might be the Goff versus Stroud might be like the closest to get to top 6. I don't know, because like Nix and Daniels, maybe they do that, but they're not holding out because they're still rookies. Yeah. So it's like hold out danger. It's like, I don't know if Jordan Love's gonna breach top 6 fantasy quarterback. But I mean, I guess he could if that offense. I don't know. They have to score a lot of touchdowns, I guess. But
Yeah,
I was like thinking Goff and Stroud probably are the most likely to get to top 6 fantasy production. But then again, we don't know. It's just these are the guys that are like the cheapest that have that capability to get there, I think. Because there are other a lot of cheap quarterbacks, but I'm not putting Daniel Jones on this list because we know Daniel Jones is not going to be a top 6 fantasy quarterback. And you can pin that because I'm sure he will be this year.
Yeah, right.
But
Keep in mind, it is based off points per game. I think worth mentioning, and you have to play a 10-game minimum. Part 1, Part 2. Daniels would have held out last year, so
Right.
if he qualifies for holdout again this year, since it is back-to-back rookie years in the first 2 years, he would actually hold out. So there is
That's
a world
another
where
one.
Daniels does hold out. Nick's exempt from that. Goff ended at QB6 last year in our scoring settings as well. So
Yeah.
it is close. By the way, you are allowed to franchise tag a holdout. The franchise tag cost is the cost of a superstar. So you cannot franchise tag somebody out of being mad that they're holding out. The franchise cost is the superstar cost. So if you franchise tagged any quarterback in the league, it's $249. You franchise tag any running back, it's $115. So you cannot franchise tag to sneak out if someone holding out. It's pretty much I'm letting them go and getting a comp pick at the end of the second round, or I'm paying them the money, or I'm trading them. You can trade someone that's holding out as well. Third option we don't talk about a lot is you can offer him to any team, and that team that receives him is then in that position where they can trade. They can let him go for that comp pick, or they can sign him. So just throwing that out there.
But yeah, this is just a quick look at the quarterbacks, really. I mean, all of you guys know who's paid the most in the league. And I mean, those guys are pretty safe bets, but I'm not going to be shocked if one of these QB. I mean, Bo Nix finished QB7, so it's like, I mean, anything's possible.
Yeah. And by the way, these are generally in kind of any order. It's really nice and pretty for the top paid quarterbacks. It kind of descends, so the top paid position descends nicely. The cheap, noteworthy ones really in any order. We're not saying that Jordan Love is better than Bo Nix here or anything like that. We touch on that a bit once we get to my section, but for here it's just these are the top 5 in any particular order, cheap, noteworthy quarterbacks. Ready to move on to running back here?
Yeah, we'll keep it moving.
Let's take a look. So here are your top 5 paid running backs in this league. Lots of one-year deals sitting around for these guys is in typical running back in dynasty fashion.
Yeah, which, I mean, McCaffrey, crazy high value deal, but I mean, even K Miggs in the chat was saying he thinks he smashes this year, and I don't see why he wouldn't. He's fully healthy, and McCaffrey has that kind of like history of he'll have that one off year, and then he'll be back full force the next year. I mean, Jonathan Taylor, like I think I mentioned it in the last video. Like Taylor finished like the last 5 weeks of the season last year with like 30 plus points a game. It was nuts. So he like absolutely went nuclear. I mean, yeah, and Saquon obviously. Bijan still on his rookie deal, so that's the one to watch out for because Bijan. I saw something about the Falcons saying that we have like lofty rushing goals for Bijan this year. Like Bijan's going to get like 1,500 plus or something rushing yards, maybe even close to 2K. And if he does that, he's obviously going to finish well for fantasy, which means he's going to hold out.
Yep.
Breece Hall, like people like the dynasty community has been like kind of sour on Breece because of like Justin Fields showing up in New York, but even him, if that offense just goes full commit to the run and teams are scared of Justin Fields' legs, then maybe Breece has some holes open up for him and he can score more touchdowns, end up better in fantasy or whatever. But yeah, these are the top paid, and then we can look at the cheap ones comparatively to these guys. And Bucky Irving's first on the list, but
insane contract,
crazy value.
Yeah,
that 4-year deal with $16, average annual value. I mean, eventually he'll hold out if he ends up, continuing. If he's not like just a one-hit wonder.
Yep.
I mean, Pacheco's on this list. If he's back to what he was doing, 2 years ago, James Conner. I mean, Conner's always been a good fantasy player, and honestly, that restructure from who's it? I think Vasquez has Conner, but
Yep.
that restructure from Conner might have been very wise because he's not going to re-sign him at that Y1OR, but he's low enough to the point where he might hold out, so he could get a comp pick out of it and just continue his rebuild. If Connor, ends up getting like top 6, or top 12.
Top 12 even, yeah.
Which, I mean, that's got to be feasible, with
Yeah.
the Cardinals coming on the up and up.
I think Connor is going to. I think that it makes that contract so digestible, and so even though you could argue, well, he could have just paid him or this or that, like he freed up some cap space for himself to make some moves in the offseason, and now has a good running back on it, like a good reliable running back on a very cheap deal. And I do not see a world where he ends the season on his roster, just because a contender is going to come looking for that flex spot, for that RB3, for that bye week coverage, and I think that Vic has a very, very good, strong bargaining chip here with James Conner in that contract for sure.
Yeah, and the last two guys, Kyron Williams and Devon Achane, both finished I think they finished back to back in fantasy last year, like RB6 and RB7. So these guys are another pretty clear holdout situation. You've got half the people in the dynasty community love Kyron, half the people hate him. And then Achane, I mean, I don't know what that Miami offense is going to look like, but if he keeps getting the dump offs from Tua, he'll be great for PPR.
Yeah.
So very likely to have those bottom 3 probably hold out. Bucky Irving's, I mean, if he's already surpassed Rachaad White, there's no doubt about that, but I don't know if Bucky will hold out this year because he didn't qualify for holdout last year, did he? Or did he?
No, because he was on the rookie deal. But he's just on such a cheap deal that it's almost inevitable, and that kind of makes it a little cursed because you want him to play well, but you don't want him to play too well. In a sense.
Yeah.
Or you want players to go off in the playoffs and sold outs are tracked weeks 1 through 14. Or you want someone to get banged up early in the season and be out for 5 weeks and then come back and play 9 games where they aren't eligible to hold out, or something just funky. Or you want them to go off and go nuclear, then win the league, and then you don't care about what happens next.
Right, yeah. If you win the league, no one else cares. So, yeah.
Yes, yeah.
But,
heading to wide receivers now, I suppose.
Yes.
Here's our top wide receivers.
Another trend, they're all 1-year deals, so this next offseason, we have so many of those RBs either getting franchise tagged or traded, or some just might walk in free agency, and then we'll see what happens. Because you're one of those teams that has $900 next year.
I wish. But yeah,
700. A couple other teams have quite a bit of cash. I know Morgan spent in free agency this year, but Rick didn't. So Rick has more cash for this upcoming class, which this upcoming class could be ridiculous. But yeah, CeeDee Lamb, highest paid on this list. Who can blame him? The Jamar Chase restructure was pretty solid restructure. 160 for 2 years. For Chase, it's not egregious with the inflation or anything. T. Higgins is probably a little overpriced, but he's T. Higgins. He'll have his 30-point games. And then Waddle is on this list too. Waddle and DK. That had to be this is the last year of their startup contract, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's why they're paid this high. We can look at the cheap guys though comparatively.
You said Chase instead of Cam, which is funny, but it's a Freudian slip, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Same person, kind of. We suspect. Here's your cheap, noteworthy wide receivers. Liquidators popping up a couple times here.
Yeah, these cheap guys. Wan'Dale Robinson, $4. He actually was wide receiver. He was a wide receiver 3 last year because he caught all those short dump offs.
Yep.
So for $4, shoot, couldn't get much better than that. Obviously, Puka Nacua, or the Luck Cardinals, still on that crazy 4th round rookie deal.
Yeah.
Which is nuts. And the fact that he hasn't held out because he's been injured enough. He's injured just enough to where he gets the benefits from him when he gets those spike weeks or his big points per game, but he doesn't play a full season because he's injured half the season. So he doesn't hold out. So that's like the perfect scenario that
It really
one
is.
wants to get. And then like Josh Downs from the Steelers, a lot of people in Dynasty are high on Josh Downs. Good player. Rashee Rice, if he comes back, I mean, he last season, his first 5 weeks of the season before Mahomes intentionally injured himself, he was a wide receiver one. And I mean, then Malik Neighbors, we don't have to talk a lot about Neighbors and how good he is because everyone knows. But yeah, these guys are super cheap. I think Justin Jefferson was like the honorable mention because somebody in the last survey was like, "Why is Jefferson $4?" because of the restructure. And I mean, I think he's on a 1 year $50 contract, so that is very cheap in
But
comparison.
it was 280 or something ridiculous.
Yeah, but like compared to his pedigree, I mean, Jefferson, that's a perfect example of a guy that is, barring injury, quite likely to finish top 12 wide receiver, and that's almost like a guaranteed holdout right now.
Yep.
And Cam could turn that into a comp pick or trade him away or whatever. But yeah, so that's the wide receivers that we got.
Can I tell you a secret as we scroll to our tight ends?
Let's do it.
So I've always wanted to collect football jerseys of players on different teams, and just like kind of have them around. And I haven't started seriously thinking about doing it until recently, since I think I've kind of gotten every single Eagles player I want. I have to figure out if I'm actually going to or if I'm not going to, whatever. I want a Malik Neighbors jersey. He is so much fun to watch, but I can't buy a Giants jersey. It's so tough.
Yeah,
But God, Malik Neighbors is so much fun to watch.
In any way, shape, or form, I'm not endorsing this.
Yeah, thank you. Here we are to the tight ends, swiftly edited, by the way, because we both had Pat Freiermuth in our top paid tight ends and worst contracts, and you kind of gave him the boot. So here we are with a different plug and play, but here are your top paid tight ends going into this year.
Yep. Yeah, the top paid ones. I mean, this was kind of easy because it's literally just who makes the most money, and I think we took out Dalton Kincaid because Kyle Pitts technically makes more average, and I mean Hawkinson for 63. Like, I think people keep forgetting about Hawkinson, how good Hawkinson is, because he's just injured a lot. But Kittle for 46, like that's arguably very cheap. Ingram for 44. Depending on how well he does this year with Bo Nix, could be a good value. And then Trey McBride, I think we'd all agree Trey McBride's the best dynasty tight end on this list, especially considering the cost. But the cheaper ones are not that. I mean, they're cheaper in scale comparatively because you look at some of these names and Goddard's points per game wise last year was pretty good. Zach Ertz in Washington, Sam Laporta. This is probably Laporta's holdout year if he ends up, going back to what he did year one, where he was like the tight end one. Hunter Henry even could have a good year. The Patriots are on the up and up. And Jonnu Smith now, I don't really know what's going to happen with Arthur Smith's, Steelers fetish, but we'll see. These guys, I'm not going to be shocked if any of them finish good, but I don't know if they necessarily go tight end 4. I think Laporta is probably the one on this list.
Yeah, if you had to bet on one.
Yeah, if I had to bet on one, I'd bet on Laporta holding out. A lot of these other guys are just cheap tight ends comparative to the guys at the top.
Well, tight end is such a wasteland, right? Like it was like Kelsey and then everybody else for a while, and it isn't that way anymore. It seems like it's gonna be Bowers, Laporta, Kittle. Like I don't know who sneaks into that number 4 spot. Kelsey I still think is an option. I think Mark Andrews could be an option, but there isn't it could be Ingram, it could be Hawkinson, but I don't know who's gonna sneak into that 4 spot. But with how cheap some of those contracts are, I imagine it's going to cause a holdout in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah. I mean, I think Kelsey's on like a 1 year 28 deal.
Yep.
And then Mark Andrews got franchise tags. He's in like a 1 year 27.
Yep.
So like
right
the odds of, unless Likely breaks out or something. I mean, Kelsey's got to finish top 12. but Kelsey's not going to be a top 4 tight end, so he
Yeah.
won't hold out. And then Mark Andrews, I doubt he'll hold out because I doubt he'll make top 4. So yeah, it's like that top 4 tight end list compared to like the top 12 running backs or top 12 wide receivers. It's like you said, tight end's just a wasteland unless you have that blow up year from somebody randomly.
Yeah.
Most of them are going to be safe, and they're not that expensive because I mean the highest paid tight end, Hawkinson at $63 is like very cheap compared to some of these wide receivers and quarterbacks. Just because we don't have tight end premium, that's why tight ends are so cheap.
Yeah. All right, let's move it right along and talk about the back half of this show. The best and worst contracts. I know there's been a kind of a meme curse bit for what I've kind of gone on and said the best contract in the league or the worst contract in the league, and they turn it around, or I say the best contract and they start to suck. I think the big notorious one was I said Daniel Jones was the best quarterback contract in the league, and here we are. But we'll go through it. These I started to rank them in order of what I thought was the best or the worst, but quickly realized there was arguments to be made for either one, either side. You could argue that this one's worse because this guy's costs more, or this one's better because he costs less, or he's on a longer deal, or this guy has better upside. So I just kind of stopped doing that and said, okay, top 5, just like yours, right? Top 5 best and top 5 worst, and these are all heavily opinionated, as is my specialty. Let's start with our best quarterback contracts. I said Jordan Love, 4-year deal, averaging $33 a year. Jaden Daniels, 4 years, averaging $45. Goff, 3 years left, averaging $46. I said Lamar. I feel like with 1 year left at $168, that's still a massive, awesome deal. And Brock Purdy with 1 year left on his deal, averaging $40 based off of how he was signed before. I also think it's worth mentioning here, I did not, in all of my power, unless I could not withstand the temptation, did not rag on rookies, did not rag on 1 year players who haven't done very much. A prime example is Hendon Hooker. He's still on a 3-year deal. He costs $15 this year, 20-something next year. I don't think he's not. I did not consider him one of the worst contracts in the league. That is a really shit contract, Morgan. I know you love him. And it isn't worth it to be paying $35 to a backup quarterback, in my opinion, in a year or two. But I avoided those. I avoided saying Shedeur is one of the worst contracts in the league. I try to give the rookie some grace here. I felt like that wouldn't be fair. Just wanted to go ahead and clarify that because I think it's an important detail. I think it's a fun debate. I think Jaden Daniels is probably the best contract in the league. Probably.
Yeah.
Jordan Love it's $12 cheaper for the same length, but I think Daniels' upside's better than Love's. But Jordan Love, Jaden Daniels, really Goff as well. I think super good contracts. Big fan of Purdy and Lamar's contracts with 1 year left. Brock Purdy's re-sign value is a lot more than that. Chase had him signed, I think it was 90 last year and 40 this year. So that is a higher number for the re-sign than you'd expect. But I still think Lamar at 168. I think that's a deal you can easily re-sign 1 more year if you want to, or do some weird extension if you wanted to. So I'm a really big fan of that contract. Whoever signed that contract for him initially, fucking G. Worst quarterback contracts: Patrick Mahomes, $338. I know I'm a Mahomes lover in Dynasty, and that's a me in and of itself. $338 is more than 33% of your salary cap, and that just seems absolutely insane to me to spend on one player that isn't Josh Allen or maybe Lamar, even as a massive fanboy. So I had to put it here. Trevor Lawrence, 2 years left on the deal, averaging 159. I feel like I haven't seen enough from Trevor Lawrence to justify spending that much money when there are other options out there. Aaron Rodgers, 1 year, $120. It's a 1 year deal, so it's expiring. So it's probably the most quote unquote forgivable one on this list. But I still think it's so much money to be spending on a quarterback when you could potentially just take that and you roll 33% of unused cap. So it's $40 that could go in a cap for next year and kind of get you / me in this one ahead, and so you wonder how much that's worth it. Anthony Richardson, this was a bit of a shot towards a younger player. I just don't think he's good. I think he's a bust probably at this point. I'm buying him where I can for like a third if I can get it, but man, do I not believe in this guy. And so averaging $60 over the next 3 years, I just feel like that was too much to say to hold on to and not include on this list. And then Herbert.
It's tough. I was like, it's tough because the rookie deal, it's like unless you're like Chase and you define the meta last year and sign your guys to 3-year deals, if you've got guys on those long-term 5-year deals like Richardson was, then you're kind of stuck holding that bill. But Rick don't care about that because Rick has plenty of money.
Rick has all the money. That fifth year is an option, right? So if Richardson sucks this year and next year, he will lose his last year of the deal, which is $80 some. I think it was the highest it could be because he was picked 4th, I think, overall. Yeah. I think.
Third.
Was it 3rd? I think it was 4th. I don't remember. I should remember this stuff. And then Herbert. I know that Herbert did get restructured, so that's why there's the 2 asterisks next to 291. His money is down, but we got a couple Herbert haters in this league. I was traded for Herbert, so I guess I'm not a Herbert hater. In a league with a couple of you, but 291 again, almost 30% of your cap room, or right about 30% of your cap room, just feels like it's way too much for a quarterback, especially when Allen's team is good and he has other quarterbacks he can kind of plug in that spot. Part of me almost feels like he could have, instead of restructured it, maybe kept somebody else or used Herbert for trade bait or something. But then, just an opinion. Let's move on to our running backs, the best running back contracts. We already talked about him once. Bucky Irving is here averaging $16 for 4 more years. Chase Brown is averaging $25 for 5 more years on his contract. Pacheco has 1 year left at 14. I like a cheap 1-year deal, especially on a running back. You never know how they're going to perform. We saw Pacheco kind of fall off a cliff. They didn't draft anybody notable. Brashard Smith, I think, in the 7th round, or whatever his name is. So, and they brought in Elijah Mitchell, but nobody to really push Pacheco if he comes back healthy. So I think that's good. And I went a little bit unconventional in terms of the prices here. Gibbs is paid $60, which is a good chunk of change. But to have Jahmyr Gibbs, who's just a dynasty top running back, with 3 more years averaging 60, feels like it's a no-brainer. It was tough for me to figure out a 5th one, but A-Chain just made a lot of sense with his home run potential. If he doesn't, to your point, if he is Tua dumping the ball off to him, that's great. If he doesn't have Tua dumping the ball off to him, that means Zach Wilson is quarterback, so he's dumping the ball off as well. So I think that A-Chain can just get unleashed, and that's $46 a year to have someone who could just take it to the house anytime he touches the ball is worth it, I think.
And it's like best of both worlds, because it's like, okay, Gibbs holds out. Who cares? He's getting paid anyway. It's so, he'll get paid. Yeah. Same for A-Chain. Someone will pay them, because it's like the Saquon effect. Like, look at what Saquon did last year. Even though Rick was like, I'm not going to go crazy on Saquon, he still got bid up to 189. So people obviously the market dictated what Saquon's value was.
Yep. And I think if Gibbs holds out at a superstar tier, he's 115. I would sign Gibbs for 115, right? Like no problem if he does this again.
I'd give him a multi-year extension at 115 if I could afford it.
Yeah. I think it's fun. Like, there's certain superstar or star holdout tiers where you're just like, yeah, it's expensive. I wish I could keep him for cheap, but if I have to, I have to. And Gibbs is like, should be one of the top paid running backs and probably in the league and also here. We take a look at the worst running back contracts. Christian McCaffrey, $254, 1-year deal. I know it's expiring. $254 for McCaffrey. He should be healthy. He should do great. He should be wonderful. He should be an auto start in your lineup to get the points. It just feels like that's so much. Ramondre Stevenson for Cam, $74 to what's presumed to be a backup running back. Need I say more? Copy paste Rachaad White on Escobar's Hippos, $72 for what is the backup to Bucky. Zach Charbonnet. Look, I know this guy hasn't gotten a chance. He's been behind KW for a long time, but it just feels like so much money to be paying a backup running back. And it's like there's a couple backup. I think he's the most expensive backup running back probably in a normal dynasty league. And so it just, I don't understand why if he's just a backup running back. I understand he should do good.
Yeah.
I understand he could do this or that. Like, doesn't matter. You're still paying him roughly $45 a year to be your backup. That just that's too expensive for me.
No different. Yeah, no different from any other handcuff RB on any other roster.
Correct.
I mean, like, before you move on to the wide receivers, like, is there a world where like Ramondre and Rashad White are just better off getting cut and then like
Yes.
trying to get re-signed with the waiver cap? Because it's like I don't know who's gonna offer like picks, because like picks are like absolute gold in this league, just because of the average annual cost of each draft pick comparative to free agents and whatnot. But it's like why does Nate need Rashad White's production this year? You know what I mean? Like, so it's like so I mean, and even like Ramondre Stevenson, I know like Cam's still like all in this year, but I mean it's like you cut Ramondre, you get like what?
37.
You get like $50 back.
You get $37 back. So you
Okay,
get
so
half.
that's a lot more
They're
than
both
I
expensive. Half. So yeah, you get half their money back. So if you're the Rashad White truther, or you're the Ramondre truther, how do you not just cut them, get $37 back, get $36 back, and bid 10 and save yourself $25? Cam, you're welcome. Nate, you're welcome. We just
well, it's like I when I cut Freiermuth, I mean Muth's been like one of my, because that's the tough thing with, I mean, I'm not gonna sidetrack us too hard, but it's like Muth is like one of my favorite tight ends because he's just good at football, but that doesn't always translate for fantasy production. And I was like, I'm not paying him 43. I got to think about future years. But yeah, at one point I had a waiver claim for like $6 on him, and then I was like, I need the roster space, so I ended up canceling it, and then Flynn ended up picking him up, which I think made sense.
Totally forgot to put a bid in for that. I would have bid $3, $4, $5. That's a steal for Flynn.
So, But
the last running back on here as well is worst running back contracts. James Conner was 113 before the restructure. Now it's good, but paying $113 to an older running back doesn't make sense to me. I am the king of the old. Nobody wants these guys running backs. Would not be wanting to pay $113 to James Conner as much as I love him. As we head to our wide receivers, our best contracts for the wide receivers. I cheated. Okay. Ladd and BTJ I put together because I couldn't narrow it down from 5 to 6, and they have the same contract. They both, with Liquidators and Flynn, again, after Chase invented the meta of your first-round pick, sign him for 3 years, you can extend them, it's no big deal. Both on 2-year deals, left averaging $28. That's insane. Puka Nacua, 2 years left, averaging $7 is absolutely insane. Rashee Rice, getting him there for $23 left on this 1-year deal. Huge value. Amon-Ra averages $93 for 3 more years. That is expensive. I'm all on board with that. To average $93 for the next 3 years to have top 6 minimum.
Yeah.
Minimum top 6. There's a lot of debate of like who 4, 5, and 6 are, but Amon-Ra has to be there. Steal to me. And Nico Collins, a little bit of a pat myself on the back, I think, to get a deal like this done, but 5 years long, averaging $59 over those 5 years. I think that's a very good value for a good receiver. A great receiver, in my opinion. Top, also 6. Worst wide receiver contracts in the league. These guys just felt way too expensive for what value they'll bring back. Romeo Doubs averages, it's 1 year left, and he costs $27. That just feels like it's too much for what's the wide receiver for.
He's probably the wide receiver two on the Packers, but yeah, like for fantasy,
Golden and Reed. Golden, Jaden Reed, 1-2.
Yeah, I guess you're right.
Christian Watson,
I don't know,
probably 3 until he pulls his hamstring anytime he decides to run.
The Packers situation is just rough, but yeah, no, I agree. It's like 27's probably a bit higher.
Yeah,
like Ridley's getting paid 28 this year, and I'd rather have Ridley than Dobbs.
100 million
pretty
times.
Easily.
Yeah, it just felt too expensive for me. Christian Kirk on Nate's team averages $70 over the next 3 years. Way too long of a deal, way too expensive of a deal. Don't blame Nate for holding on to him for now. If Kirk comes out and does decently and kind of returns to some of the form that we saw early Jacksonville, late Arizona, wouldn't be surprised if he gets some value. but that's just expensive.
There,
Quentin Johnson.
there was a beat report about Christian Kirk talking about how C.J. Stroud might have found his new safety net. Because it's like obviously like you're going to throw downfield to Nico, but it's like you need that quick dump off. It's Christian Kirk, but I mean, Christian Kirk hasn't done anything since that 1 year in Arizona.
Yeah, I mean, the good news is that there's not going to be. You might need that safety net because Mixon doesn't really. Like Mixon and Chubb are just runners, you know, like they're just going to kind of do it. I know they're both good running backs, but it's not like it's Kamara, it's not like it's James Conner, it's not like it's Jahmyr Gibbs. Yeah. So he's going to need some design safety net, but the two rookies there, the Iowa State boys, we'll have to see how they do. Quentin Johnson, just another one of those. I'm out on him. I think the Chargers are on him as well. You know, they drafted Ladd last year. They drafted Trey Harris this year. They're bringing back Mike Williams. Not that Mike Williams is going to make so much of an impact, but I think they're done with Quentin Johnston. He costs $46 average over the next 3 years. It's just too expensive for a guy who looks like he's on his way out the door. Again, somebody I'm picking up for if I can get a third for him or a fourth for him or something. But I don't think he's anything. T. Higgins, we touched him a bit. He's just so overpriced. 141, the fourth highest paid wide receiver in the league. That just doesn't make sense to me. It doesn't compute. I think he's a great player. It's just way too much. And I did add Justin Jefferson on here. It was $322. I know it's Jefferson, and I feel like if there's any wide receiver other than maybe Chase, Jefferson's the one to pay that much money. It's too much money. It just is. It's just too much. You can't pay a wide receiver in a standard scoring, in terms of wide receiver scoring, that much money, in my opinion. And our last section here, the tight ends. Tell you what, this was a struggle to figure out who it was going to be. I had 3 of each, and then Code sent me his list, and he had 5 of each, and I was like, God, I guess I'll go put 2 more on. And then you took Freiermuth away from me, and so I had to have somebody else on.
Yeah.
So some of these will be controversial. I'll just say that now. Best tight end contracts, not going to get controversial off the bat. Brock Bowers, yeah, that's the best tight end contract in the league. Years left, averaging 28, tight end 1. Kind of done there. Laporta, I'm a big Laporta fan. I think he's great. $19, 1 year deal, that's great. Tucker Kraft comes in here. I just think it's such a good, cheap value. 3 years, $11 for this nitty-gritty tight end that's clearly involved in the Packers offense. It's outplayed his draft position. Love that. It's also nice that Morgan's a Packers fan. He's a Packer, so I think that's definitely a good one.
Yeah.
George Kittle, 46. Look, that's a lot to pay a tight end, but if you're going to pay a tight end at the top of the market, it's got to be someone who has clear outs to finishing as tight end 1 or 2 or whatever it is. And Kittle is one of the 3 or 4 people that I could, if you told me they finished tight end 1, I'd say, okay, I can see it. Because the other, 28 starters, I don't buy it for a second. And Trey McBride, 2 years, $46. It's expensive. Same story for Kittle, copy paste, except you've got him for 2 years. I think that's a big win there. This is where it gets a little spicy. There's a couple contracts on here that I'm going to go ahead and try to argue for, or at least share my perspective on, that maybe don't make as much sense. You're going to think, wow, I can't believe that guy's on there. Starting with TJ Hawkinson. I just feel like why is why go away? Go away.
Go away. That's gone.
TJ Hawkinson, I just feel like $63. You're paying a tight end that's probably worth, based off our other contracts, in the mid-20s, maybe 30s, $63, and that's just too much. I like Hawkinson. I know K. Miggs likes Hawkinson. I just don't think he's worth this much money in no tight end premium. Kyle Pitts, late addition to this list after Freiermuth got taken off here for his 1 year 43. He's averaging $32. I like the way the contract is formatted. It's cheap this year. It's a bit more expensive next year. So if he does something, you can move him. If he doesn't, you can cut him. I think that was smart. You're still paying Kyle Pitts $32 when we haven't seen very much from him. Cade Otton coming in in the third spot to talk about here. 3 years left, $27 average per year. I just feel like Cade Otton is such a good tight end too. And so it's like, I don't know that I would be paying him that much money. I feel like at this point, I think tight end is such a have or have not position. And then there's like that bottom tier of tight end 1. and maybe Otten's there, but I just feel like you could get that guy for $10 and just be fine. And look, I know we're penny pinching here, but with how many teams are pressed up against the cap, I think we all have to penny pinch unless you're fucking Rick. Fucking hate that guy.
Yeah.
But other than that, I just think it's too much. Speaking of paying too much, I put Kincaid on here. I'm not totally out on Kincaid, but he's not producing the way that he should be, given the situation of not having a good enough wide receivers around him, given the situation of having an all-star, elite, all-world athlete at quarterback, and given the fact that he's being paid averaging $46 a year. You still got to hold him. I'm not saying Unicorn should go cut him or get rid of him or anything. I'm just saying right now, today, it's a bad contract. And lastly, I went Evan Ingram. I'm a massive Ingram fan. I think that he should go nuclear. I think this should be Jimmy Graham type with Sean Payton, but we don't know that. And there's so many, how many times in fantasy football have you said this guy should do blank and they don't? He's being paid $44 this year and $44 next year. That's a lot of money on a non-premium position to say, I hope he does it. That's my thought.
Especially for Vic, it's like, I mean, now Vic has quite a few guys that he's paying a lot of money to, but you're not going to just cut all of them for the cash because what is that cap going to buy you in free agency next year?
I think Vic is going to be so active this year. Maybe I shouldn't say I think he will be. He should. I think he should be. I think his team has so much opportunity with players that should be traded, and if they spike this or that. And he's kind of talked about he hates when GMs come in and don't tear down things right away and this and that. So I think there's a lot of things to be excited for this team. I'm excited to see what it is with a lot of those contracts as he's still kind of figuring this out, but there's a lot of decisions to be made there. So that does it. Solid 47 minutes. We said we were going to keep it to 20 to 30, I think, right? And here we are.
And we're talking about it, but you know how we do.
Yeah, it's the off season.
We gotta give you guys content for your morning commute or I don't know, when you're doing your dishes. I don't know.
Dude, prime. This is prime dishwashing content. So, in case you guys are desperate need of commute or dishwashing content, Brett Coleman and the Bootleg Football Podcast is doing a series right now. 32 teams, and they talk about each team in depth for about an hour. It has been sensational listening as I'm doing random things around the house. I'm about 8 teams in. I think they put out about like 10, 11, 12 videos. They're just good listens. I can't wait till they get to the Eagles. They did the AFC West. They're halfway. I'm halfway through the NFC West, and I can't remember what they just started. They just started another division. Just listen to the Cardinals. I was thinking about you the whole time, Flynn. Sounds like a lot of tears were or should have been shed throughout the season, it seems like. But yeah, lots of fun worth listening to. More things that'll be fun worth listening to are what is up next. Individual interviews. We did a poll for you guys. 9 of you have filled it out. K. Miggs, Alan, and Vic. I'm still mad at you. 9 of you have filled it out, expecting the rest of the league to get it done very quickly. Just took a few minutes. I appreciate you guys getting it done so quickly. I'll harass those guys again. But what we're going to do is we're just going to talk about whatever you want to talk about with your teams. We'll go over your where the league voted you in your standings within your division, whether they voted you to be in the playoffs, whether they voted you to be at the toilet bowl, and we'll just kind of review what those results are. Talk about that, and then it's going to be very free-flowing. We can dive into whatever you want to talk about, share strategy, hide strategy, go over how proud you are, where you think you need to close a gap, or what your expectations for the year are, and blah, 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 blah. But we'll go team by team in depth, 20-ish minutes an interview. Really want to bang them out as quickly as I can in the most loving way possible. Try to line them up sometime soon, maybe even over the next week or so. Who knows? We'll see. That does it here for us, though, Code. Any final thoughts as we approach the 50-minute mark?
I mean, I think that's about it for off-season content, because we've done just about everything we can think of. I mean, I'm sure we can just chat and shoot the shit on anything, but as far as, like, we're getting into training camp, these individual team interviews will take place, and then after that, like by the time all that wraps up, it's probably going to be like August, and then we're into preseason mode, into the season mode, and then we're going to be doing our, I'll be doing my weekly recaps, and then Blonde will be doing his weekly previews. So probably not too many, big videos like this, but I'm sure we'll sprinkle some in during the season when we find the time.
Yeah, I imagine our next big video like this is our mid-season check-in. I am guessing.
We'll grab like 2 guests and make a big deal out of it, and then that'll be it.
Yeah, probably keeping the in-season stuff a little bit shorter than in the past. Probably the mid-season check-in, way too early mock draft, trade deadline, which I love. And hope it is as successful as it has been in the past. And then once we get into playoffs and all that good stuff, we'll go more in depth with each team. But that's a long talk. We can't be talking about fantasy football playoffs before a training camp begins. So we'll wrap it up here. That'll do it for us. We will see you guys soon in your individual team interviews. Looking forward to it.